that'll work. All right, I've got a couple of poems here to read, and just looking at them, it's funny. I write a lot of poems with dates on them, just because I can remember David Cope one time told me, he said, my best poems are poems I write about my past, and I always seem to date them. The first diatribes I ever won was Gary, 1961. So these poems both have dates on them for when they happened. I'll also show you how old I am. Okay. So this first one, and these are both true stories, okay? This first one is called At Sharing Time in Mrs. Cook's Fourth Grade Classroom, 1961. He was a fat kid, freckles and red hair. I can't recall his name. One morning when our class had sharing time, he waved his hand and said, his face beaming, "My dad told me the Russians have a new bomb, and it's called the gold dust bomb. They just need to drop one out on our country's edge, and then the radiation will spread out and kill everybody." And in wonderment, he said, "Isn't that cool? I think that's so cool." He spoke into the horror silence that stilled all of us, cessation of our breath, the helpless fear that fell across our hearts, like death that would descend from isotopes of fallout in the wind filtering east to west, a curtain spreading, bringing doom from New York to LA, taking us all, a nation, to our graves. "Isn't that cool?" he beamed, eyes lit with joy. Our teacher said, "I've heard about that, yes, and it's awful." Then afterwards, the kids sat with closed eyes, lost, nestled in some private ecstasy, some dream, and all the while sat whispering, "That is so cool, so cool. Isn't that cool?" All right. So, really happened. And I remember it to this day. And I was fourth grade, I'm like 9 years old or something like that. And I can remember how I felt, and everything, and how scared I was just when he said that.
Did he have any friends?
I don't know. Like I say, probably not, because he sat next to me. I can't even remember his name. So I remember a lot of my old classmates' names, so whatever. Okay, this one's called, again with a date, The Serbian Doctor I Knew Who Was in a Concentration Camp, 1973. He was transported at age 18, new married with a child, put on a train and carried off to some camp with an unpronounceable name, a work camp, not a death camp. All the same, his family died. After that, the Germans moved him from job site to job site, and in Vienna, he asked a friendly guard to look the other way while he walked off, trusting no bullet in the back would follow him. Not Jewish, he came from the next rank up of people the Nazis slated to erase, the Slavs. He found refuge in an Orthodox church, got to the Allied lines and joined the British Army as an interpreter. "Of course I spoke excellent German," he said. His voice got husky telling his tale. He wiped a tear out of his eyes. "But all of that sounds like a fairy tale to people now," he told us, there in the racket club where I worked, where he played tennis with all the other doctors in town. The camps of World War II had set in history less than 30 years, a story brutal as the worst the Brothers Grimm had ever written down, and more ephemeral than a breadcrumb trail. This poem is called Spearfinger, and Spearfinger was a legend of the Cherokee tribe. And so I think the poem explains the legend. Spearfinger. Soft song beneath the moon brings drowsiness. Spearfinger, with body made of stone, stalks through the old-growth forests in the Ozarks and the Ouachitas, quiet mountains worn with age to easy hills. Moving through empty rifts, dark clumps of trees, in bayous and in sloughs and swamps, she sings. Grandmother of the night, her song can charm unwary souls to sleep. Then with one finger, honed sharp as a tanner's knife, she slits their side and pulls their liver out, and feasts on it as bats swoop, serpents crawl, and night pulses out death, stalking and hunt. The ancient Cherokee defeated her. They trapped her in a pit, but no weapon could pierce her granite skin. The chickadee, the bird of truth, whispered, "She holds her heart in her left hand. A heart cannot exist as stone." The warriors threw one well-placed arrow fell her. The warriors threw gravel and boulders down to cover her, so rock became her grave. But bodies made of rock emerge from rock. Warm summer nights she rises up, free from the spell of death, walks through the wooded hills and softly sings an ancient tune, her threnody of stone. All right, thank you. Now this next one, I'm going to do three, is a poem by the Roman poet Horace, translation that I did out of Latin. And this is the poem that uses the phrase carpe diem, seize the day. Now, I translated it, and I didn't use that phrase, seize the day. Okay, I translated it a little differently, so go ahead and read this. This has the very impressive and imaginative title of Ode Number 111. Okay, Horace didn't bother to title his poems, he just numbered them. Okay. Lucan, no one can ever know his fate. Not you, not me. So don't open the gate that makes a man read tea leaves or sing hymns. This could be our last winter. Then again, we might live decades and see many more pound the white sand here on this Tuscan shore. So do what you must do. Trim back your vines and don't invest in hope. The sands of time run even as we speak. We only share this day. The future is no one's affair. And then somebody mentioned St. Francis, so I had to read this. I brought this along tonight. This was the first poem I ever published. I think I published it while I was in college, so this would have been about 1979 or something like that. And it's called The Sultan of Egypt Writes of His Meeting with St. Francis. St. Francis went and visited the Sultan of Egypt, who gave him audience and tried to convert him to Christianity. And so this is a little poem that kind of imagines his thoughts after that meeting. The Sultan of Egypt writes of his meeting with St. Francis. Francis, the Kafir came and dragging in his vermin to my hall, my arabesque, more splendid than Alhambra, would as God had sent him to Cordova and not here, begged audience. Our eyes had never seen against the colored tiles a man like this, so unsymmetrical, rough-hewn like wood, and disproportionate. How curious the Jews' old God, who favored Solomon, should tolerate such embassage. His robe was ragged serge, a rope around his waist, and barefoot like a beggar. All my court, the men of war, the artists, those who knew calligraphy and building, and the terms of algebra and grammar, gaped to see this man for whom the even lines they drew could not be meshed, for whom their smooth designs would fall unequal. Oh, I heard him out impatiently. I know that story well. He made no headway. Still the minarets punctured the sky. But I can fancy now a flaw in the fine system of design that decorates the wall by which he stood. Somewhere in its geometry, one strand is out of place, unraveled by the dust he carried with him from Assisi's hills. This one, again, this is a date poem. I was in the Army. It's called Army Talk, 1972. If you fought, were in combat, you were in the shit. In the shit, people got blown away. The official term was bring effective fire. It had effect, wounded or killed. Someone once asked me, why do they call it casualties? I thought about it a long time. I guess it's because they're just lying around, they're not doing anything. They're casual. Not doing anything, I did not say this then, because they had been in the shit and were blown away due to effective fire. All right, and this one, I debated about whether to bring this or not, but I did. This poem, you have the title, then you have a quotation from a British philosopher named Roger Scruton, and he wrote a book called Beauty. He wrote a lot of books, but one on beauty, on artistic beauty. Okay, glossy page out of a porn magazine. Here's the quote. The pornographic image is like a magic wand that turns subjects into objects, people into things, and thereby disenchants them, destroying the source of their beauty. She is performing, but her eyes look out, not at the man she's servicing. You are the object of her focused gaze, no doubt. It is an invitation from afar to join her, to participate, to be a part of what she does, to intercourse of mind, not body, which she eagerly performs in nakedness. She can divorce her soul from action, a commodity, not part of what she is, 2 times removed, a glossy page and fa intimacy, twice phony, twice contrived, airbrushed and smoothed, as false as Judas's kiss, a whorehouse moan, body closely embraced and yet alone. All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, David.